issue with student loans in the U.S. today is several things, several issues rather. One is overborrowing. Students will often borrow more money than what they actually need for their expenses.
I've always known that I was doing loans, but it just now hit me how much I really, had to actually pay back.
Going to school, it was great. I was married, had 2 incomes, basically. Then I wasn't married anymore, so it was just my income. Lost my job, and that's when the student loans became a problem.
The debt I acquired through student loans, it's something I'll be paying for the rest of my life.
How will you pay for your college degree? Every day, thousands of college students are faced with this question. They'll apply for scholarships left and right, cut back financially on everything but school, and even take on multiple jobs to be able to pay for their degree. We asked around and got a variety of answers.
I'm actually on partial scholarship. I have in-state tuition from track and field, and the rest is being covered by my parents.
I'm using the lottery scholarships, and that's all I've got right now. I had the Pell Grant, but I lost that, so I'm on just the lottery right now.
I'm on football scholarship.
I'm paying for school through my athletic scholarship, and I receive a Hope Scholarship, and I also receive a federal Pell Grant.
I pay with my Hope Scholarship, and I use my subsidized and unsubsidized loan, and I pay out of pocket too.
I'm paying for college by my grandmother gives me half, and then I pay for half out of my own pocket.
But for most students, there comes a time in their college career where at one point or another, they have to take out student loans. But it's when the student stops thinking about how to pay back what they've borrowed, or never started thinking about it in the first place, where the problems truly begin.
Sometimes you don't want to think about it because you've got a lot of other things going on in school. You're studying, you're having a great time. Who wants to think about something boring like paying bills? So the plan of action, though, is just for a student's future. If they don't have a plan of action, all that fun and work is going to come to an extreme halt when they graduate and they have the debt in their face that they have to pay back.
Austin, a senior at Austin Peay State University, understands the anxieties of debt procrastination all too well.
My name is Austin Cumberlander. I'm a public relations student at Austin Peay State University. This is my 4th year here, and I'm $28,000 in debt. My biggest reason for wanting to come to Austin Peay was that it was one of the cheaper colleges in the state. I knew that I was going to receive the Hope Scholarship, which in total was about $16,000 for 4 years. And then I also received the Aspires. As far as loans go, I took out the max every year for loans because I felt that I needed to be able to cover myself. Now, as far as knowing how much, in debt I was actually in, that actually just hit me now.
Student loans become real for students when they graduate and they get their bill from their lender or from their servicer. Sometimes they forget that they are borrowing all that money coming up through the ranks as they go through school. And then the reality hits, and that's a huge issue because it could be a lot of debt and they haven't prepared for how they're going to pay for that. They may not get the job they want right out of school. And they need to be, the best advice is for students to be thinking from the time they enter as a freshman until they graduate about and understand what they owe and think about how they're going to pay it back.
As far as me having as much student loan debt that I have right now, the way that it's affected me, really, I guess I've just been anxious, you know. I know that I have to be able to make enough money to be able to cover student loans as well as be able to support myself and go out to do the things that I need to do to get a good job, you know. So it's kind of a hindrance. In retrospect, I probably wouldn't have taken out as much money as I did. That probably could have been helped out a lot more if I would have just planned. I really wish I would have done that, honestly, because it would have made it easier to figure out how much money I actually needed to get, as opposed to just getting it and then going from there.
Austin is taking the beginner steps toward properly managing his loan, but when it comes to putting a time period on things, he's unsure.
To be honest with you, I really don't even know. I mean, to be realistic, I would say maybe within the next 10 to 15 years, I would have it paid off. But that's trying to be realistic and maybe optimistic as well. I'm not totally sure of how I'll be able to pay it off or when I'll be able to pay it off.
While some students forget to plan at all, some try to. Like Beverly, a non-traditional student who graduated in 2001. She made strides in planning how she would pay back her debts from school, but hardships were something she never accounted for, and as a result, still has a large sum of loans to pay more than a decade later.
My name is Beverly Armstrong, and I graduated in 2001, and I have about $18,000 in debt right now, student loans. I maxed out each semester, and I paid back as I was going, but not the full amount. You know, I was just making like $50 a month payment back, which was not enough to cover the whole thing. Ended up having, you know, quite a bit left over after I graduated, and I continued paying for it. And then life happened and got behind, got, you know, put in default, and now they've garnished my wages.
Defaulting is basically the same as if you don't pay your bills. So if you default on a loan, then you have missed several payments. And that's the same as if you don't pay for your car, they will come and repossess your car. They can't repossess your degree, thank goodness. However, it certainly will go against your credit and impact students when they go to try to borrow money for a home or for a car. And in some cases, in some fields of study, they actually will garnish your wages.
I got my degree in applied science, accounting, basically, and it was Damar Institute. I actually felt really good when I graduated until about 6 months afterwards, and I still didn't have a job. Even though my GPA was 3.98, I couldn't get a job in my field because I didn't have the work experience.
Beverly works at a local discount market where she manages.
I've worked in retail all my life. I just didn't want to work retail, but that's what I have my experience in, and so that's where I ended up at. I am the non-food manager, do price changes, I do planograms, which is rearranging all the shelves with the product. When the truck comes in, the stock, I put it away. You know, I stock the shelves. I coordinate with the front-end lead about lunches and, you know, what's going on at the registers. Pretty much that's what I do all day long.
She faults not having a plan from beginning to end as the reason things fell apart. As Beverly moved up at her workplace, it made her financial situation improve, and she's able to make loan payments again, although she knows there's still much to be done.
Well, I'm able to live by myself now. It has gotten better. It wasn't always a year ago. Even though I was working at the same place I'm working at now, my son was paying for my groceries and my cell phone. I felt horrible as a mother. I never wanted my children to support me. They're just not supposed to take care of me. Maybe in my old age, you know, would be great, but not now. I felt like I was taking away from him and his family. I just didn't like it. But I am very grateful that he was able to step up and help. Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have ate.
I didn't pay my student loans. That's how I was able to help my mother because I can't afford it and she needed help. She came first.
Daniel stepped in when his mother needed him most, but like most Americans, has student loan debts of his own. And his amount is a constant concern in his life.
I do have student loans. I have my own. It's around 50 grand worth of student loans, and it's terrible. I hate it. I am married. We have no kids yet, thankfully, because we couldn't afford them. We've been together for 13 years, and she has her student loan. She has about 50 grand worth as well. She is a DHS worker, Department of Human Services. She makes about $23,000 to $24,000 a year on a 4-year degree. With her being the only income, student loans want $400 a month for mine, $400 a month for hers. We just can't afford it.
Student loans impact families significantly in several ways. The primary way is it just reduces the amount of the income that they can use for things that they need. If you think about your expenses in a pie chart, if student loan debt is 25% of your income is going to student loans, and then X percent of your income is going to your light bill and rent or your house payment, you're going to end up with very little income that's disposable for things that you want to do. And that can put a family in real bind.
Daniel knows these struggles could have been avoided had he planned ahead and been more proficient.
Like every responsible young child that takes out more money than they know what to do with, I completely ignored my student loans, which was totally the wrong idea, and I've paid for it now. So I told you I owe $50,000. By the time I'm done, I will pay over $110,000 if it's all said and done, and it's paid back in full. That's what we're looking at. So a house. That's how it affects my life. It's a house. I don't realistically believe in my lifetime I will ever own a house.
You can see student loans from either side of the looking glass, but at the end of the day, it's how you manage them that determine whether or not they will aid or hurt you.
Overall, I feel that student loans can have a huge effect on students, and it could be positive or negative effect. Negative effect would be can make you kind of lazy in a sense, because for a while I wasn't working, and I knew that I was able to get this money and spend it on things that sometimes weren't necessarily a necessity. It could also be a good thing for people who actually plan out everything financially, and so they have an idea how much money that they should be taking out to pay for specific things, as opposed to just taking it out and paying for things that are unneeded.
One way that students can try to reduce their debt or their dependency on debt is to research as many scholarships, any kind of free money, something that you don't have to pay back. And for scholarships, there are some for traditional, non-traditional as well. Most scholarships are going to go towards traditional age students. And students have to absolutely research their school, go on a website, like here at Austin Peay, there's a scholarship website by category, and apply for anything and everything you think you qualify for.
While scholarships are the best option to help you pay for school, student loans are supposed to be there to help you, not hinder you. The important thing is being consciously aware of how much you're taking out and being proactive about your plans for paying it back. There are many doable options.
There are several resources a student can use to help manage their debt and to create a budget, use a template, provide also a loan repayment calculator. I think that's a really good idea. I'll tell you why. With a student taking a repayment calculator and looking at it that before they become a senior, they're a sophomore, they can keep a handle on, keep an idea of how much they owe or going to owe. But a resource is studentaid.gov. That is a federal site, and it's excellent. It's an excellent site. FastWeb is, I think it's just fastweb.com, fastweb.org perhaps, is a resource where students can go to look for scholarships. Some schools have a financial literacy office or a financial or money management office. Sometimes it's actually ran by students. Where the students can go into that place as a resource and get budget information and have folks that can actually assist them as they go along.
Austin, Beverly, and Daniel have their own advice now looking back.
have a plan, a financial plan of how much money you need for every specific thing, how much money you need for housing, how much money you need for food. All of those things matter when it comes to you taking out loans. So have a plan and go from there.
I would tell them to look into scholarships, even if it's like writing an essay. I didn't find out about those until after I graduated, which I think would have been better if I at least tried, if I knew about them and tried them, I wouldn't have had so much debt.
Do your research before you do it. Know how much tuition is actually going to cost you. Know what your books are actually going to cost you. Make a mental note or whatever you have to do to for certain know where this money's going, where it's coming from, and how much it's going to cost you every month to pay it back and how long it's going to take. As I ignored my student loans for far too long, hoping they would just disappear. And now I'm in the boat that I'm in now. Don't go that route.
Managing your finances and understanding your financial status is the best way to deal with loans. People take them in every day, and those who stick to a plan end up completing the process with little to no problems. No matter where you attend, college is going to cost, but it doesn't have to be a lifetime affair. Use your resources and be informed. Yeah, there you go. Okay,
I'll be an actor, man.
Are you filming right now?
Yeah.
We're just letting you know.
Because I was going to take a break now.
Have a message for everyone in student loans who have student loans?
Get out while you can.
I know, I'm trying. I'm an amateur, so